Could have the roll call.
Scott.
I haven't heard from Mr. Scott.
Connor.
Here.
Hicks.
Here.
Perez.
Haven't heard anything from President.
Blank. Here. Lenny.
Here.
Middlesworth.
Here. We do have a quorum.
Here comes Mike.
At your table this evening, you should have received an updated copy of the Form 4B. Jim, do you have anything you would like to add?
Well, I would just note to the members that you'll see on the yellow line on the front page of the 4B handout, you got the projected operating balance is a higher number than you saw last week when you were meeting. That's up to 7,128,000. Reason that's higher, it's like roughly 600,000 plus higher, is the DLGF, the state of Indiana, did come out with its projections for Grant County for the 2024 local income tax revenue. And it was higher by 600,000 plus than what we'd use as a projection. We did the miscellaneous revenue. So if you look at your general fund column on that front page, in the blue lines, there's an 8A and an 8B. That 8B line shows miscellaneous revenue for 2024 of 13,154,000. That is higher than what you had in the last paper by that difference in the state projection for revenue. So that's an increase, which is to the county's positive, obviously. So you'll see that as a difference. And then if you also go back on the second page, Fund 1112, which is the EDIT fund, EDIT fund, you'll see an increase in the operating balance there as well, because that also has income tax money coming in. On the blue line where it shows revenue of 1,571,000, that's where the increase shows. And it was roughly 150,000 higher, I think, than last time. So those two funds have good news for you. It's more revenue than we anticipated. Now, I will say this, and obviously when we anticipate revenue budget time, we want to be conservative. So I want to be reasonable but low, not too high. And it came in higher than what we projected, which is good. I want you to know that that's not a final number yet. The final number comes out October, November-ish in that time frame. But this has been a good number for us in the past to use. The August number has been a good number. So it should be decent, though, I would think. So that's my update, I guess, on that.
Are there any questions from the members regarding the 4B or any other general questions for Mr. McWhirter? Thank you, sir.
You're welcome. Like, again, if you have any questions, feel free to contact me. I'd be more than happy to talk to you as we go through the process. So I won't hang out any longer. Let you guys get to what you have to do. So thank you.
Good evening. As we start this evening, I'll go ahead and give us the update on our budget goals. Now, the number one budget goal is to adopt a reasonable budget, one that meets our needs and minimizes the needs for additional appropriations. Two, have reasonable wages and benefits for our employees. And three, maintain a reasonable operating balance for each of the funds. We'll go through each department as they come before us this evening. We'll listen to all the requests as they bring before us, including personnel. However, the items we will be taking action on tonight will be the non-personnel items. And we'll address the personnel items at an additional meeting, a later dated meeting. And yeah, I think we're ready. So the first department before us this evening will be Superior Court 3. And you can start with your personnel piece. You can tell us anything you want to know, but we're not going to take any action on it tonight. But
When you say that, you mean as far as
the salaries.
salaries, that's going to be at a later date?
Yep.
Okay.
But go ahead and feel free to talk about it now.
Talk about it now?
Yep.
Okay, great. All right. Well, Jason McVicker and Judge of Grand Superior Court 3. And the first thing that I wanted to make sure that I was very clear about how grateful the staff was about the raise last year. The raise last year was 7%, and I can tell you that our staff greatly appreciated, is very grateful for the generosity of the council, and that raise was greatly appreciated. What I did in anticipation of, and I can answer any questions that anyone has about my budget, is I proposed for the staff raise, and it was 44,900. And where I came up with that was I looked at counties that I believe are very similar to Grant County, that a court staff position in Howard County. And some of these numbers are extrapolated because I don't have recent numbers, because obviously they're going through the same process that we are. But if you take a 5% raise, which is what I did, Howard County for someone at court staff is 40. If you extrapolate a 5% raise for 2024, will be $47,029.34. And to get another comparative, Randolph County for 24, if you extrapolate a 5% raise, is $48,628.07. And I don't have numbers from all over the state. What I did was I targeted counties: Richmond, Kokomo, Randolph County, Howard County, counties that are very similar to Grant County. And so I think these, nowhere near is the number that I'm requesting that there be a raise is not near these numbers, or thousands of dollars off these numbers. But I do believe that it's important for Grant County to stay competitive with salaries, because what I think hampers and encumbers the administration of justice is turnover in staff. And I know the courts recently have had to deal with turnover staff, which is natural. But I do believe that having salary increases certainly in a lot of ways are preventative towards trying to head off disruption of the administration of justice through a staff turnover. As far as any other issues related to Grant Superior Court 3's budget, I'd be happy to answer any of those questions that anybody would have.
Is there any questions or comments regarding the salary request or categories 2, 3, and 4? Everything looks the same as far as the budget goes.
Yeah, everything is exactly the same, except for I did request an increase in salary. Everything else is exactly the same.
If there's no questions, I'd entertain a motion.
I'd make a motion to approve non-salary portion of Superior Court 3 budget.
Second.
I have a motion from Mr. Connor, a second from Mr. Lemming to approve categories 2, 3, and 4 within the Superior Court 3's budget. Any questions or comments from the members? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Thank you. If anybody would like to see the numbers from the Randolph or Howard County, I'd be happy to share those numbers with anybody.
Yeah, if you don't mind, would you just send them to my email
Yes,
and I
certainly will.
forward them on? I
Appreciate
that.
Thank you.
Yeah,
All right.
thanks for doing
Thank you all.
The next budget before us this evening will be Superior Court 1.
Good evening.
Evening.
As far as salaries are concerned, I asked for a 5% raise for my employees. That essentially keeps track with the pace of inflation. Certainly not opposed to what Judge McVicker requested for everyone. And I too appreciated the 7% raise from last year. As far as the balance of the budget, there are absolutely no changes over last year. I asked for no increases.
Any questions or comments from the members? If there are none, I'd entertain a motion.
I would move to approve the non-salary portions of Superior Court 1's budget.
Second.
I have a motion for Mr. Connor, a second from Mr. Poling to approve within the Superior Court 1's budget categories 2, 3, and 4 as presented. Any other questions or comments from the members? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. The motion carries. Thank you. Have a good evening. Next budget before us this evening would be the Superior Court 2 and the Title 4D. Good evening.
Good evening. Bridget Faust, Judge Superior Court 2. The budget I submitted will mirror last year's budget with the exception of the Similar to Superior Court 1, 5% raise that's requested. Again, I think that as Judge Todd indicated, this tracks with inflation further. If I have a moment. As a comparison for quarterly numbers, within Superior Court 2, not only have the CHINS filings gone up, but the felony filings in the first quarter were 378, 326 felony filings in the second quarter. And I think compared to years past, those were 200 and 190. So those are steadily increasing. So across the board, more work to be done to justify the nominal raise that's requested. Other than that, the other categories are the same as 23.
Is there any questions from the members? If there are no questions, I entertain a motion.
Move to approve non-salary portions for budget for Superior 2.
Second.
I have a motion from Mr. Connor, a second from Mr. Lemming to approve within Superior Court 2's budget categories 2, 3, and 4. Any other questions or comments from the members? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Thank you.
If you want to talk about the 4D, I mean, I know it's salaries as well.
The 4D, similar request. Now, the unique difference in the 4D is our 4D court reporter is paid a portion out of the incentive funds. However, combined, her salary is the same as the other members. So the same request has been asked for a similar increase of 5%. And then it's broken out between what portion of that would come out of incentive funds and what portion would come out of the budget. Or I should say, reimbursed from the incentive funds.
Is there any questions you have, Angie? You have everything you need? Okay,
Perfect, thank you.
thank you. Next budget before us this evening will be the circuit court. Good evening, sir.
Evening, gentlemen. I'm going to get up here and ask for something completely different than my colleague. No, I'm just kidding. Same as them. The non-salary categories, as have been for several years past, many years past, remain the same in this year's budget as well. Just requesting that those remain static for 2024. Glad to hear that one of your standards is reasonable raises for staff. We appreciate the raise last year for staff, and I think 5% fits within that reasonable range. That's what I've requested as well this year. I think appreciated Judge Vickers' work in terms of looking at where other counties are being paid. So I think 5% is well within the reasonable range, and something more than that would be make us more competitive. But that's pretty much, I think, everything I have to say with regards to budget, unless you have questions.
Is there any questions or comments from the members? I'd entertain a motion then.
I would move to approve the non-salary portions for the budget for Circuit Court.
Second.
I have a motion from Mr. Connor, a second from Mr. Lemming to approve within the circuit court's budgets categories 2, 3, and 4 as presented. Any other questions or comments from the members? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next budget before us this evening will be the corrections, probation. Good evening.
So we have several different budgets for you to look through tonight.
The corrections is the first one up on our book here.
So this budget is looking at the salaries. So this would include the state mandated raises for the probation officers. And then we also included a raise for the non-mandated staff. And we would just ask that you consider the non-mandated staff at the same rate that the county does their raises as well. And then the other that we have in this budget is the money for your analysis. And just kind of as a reminder for how we do utilize these funds is we prioritize our grant funding for all of our urinalysis first. Then we go through our probation user fees, and you'll see them on several different budgets here. And then if we run through all of those, that's when we would use these funds. And if you can see over the past few years, we haven't had to do that. So with the price of the urine screens going up, like everything else, we appreciate having this in the budget, just in the event that we will need to use those in the future.
Any questions or comments from the members? Angie, you have everything you need as far as the ones that are non-mandated? And then what percent was it? Do you know?
The mandated raise for the
Yes.
probation officer was 7.8%.
7.8. Any other questions or comments from the members? If not, I'd entertain a motion for category 2.
To approve.
Second.
I have a motion from Mr. Connor, a second from Mr. Lemming to approve within the corrections budget, category 2 as presented. Any other questions or comments from the members? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Rule 1070 juvenile probation.
So this looks at no changes from previous years. We've got a little bit of, so we got budget for overtime, and then obviously the social security and for the juvenile staff. You'll see a little bit of that being expended in 22. Right now, we're working on most generally having our juvenile staff use comp time when we can. If you notice with the increase of the workload with the juvenile detention center closing, we may need to look at times where we have to use the overtime moving forward. But generally, we look at doing comp time first. But there are some times where we have to use some of that overtime as well. But the rest of these remain the same.
And the revenue source for this fund is
Be your user fees, juvenile user fees.
correct.
So this is our lowest receiving fund. So we try to really kind of not put a whole lot of line items in this budget.
Is there any questions or comments from the members? If there are none, I'd entertain a motion.
Make a motion to approve category 3 as presented.
Second.
I have a motion from Mr. Lemming, a second from Mr. Poling to approve within the juvenile probation fund, category 3 as presented. Any other questions or comments from the members? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Opioid restricted.
This is the new position that was just allocated for the treatment coordinator. That position is not filled yet. It's just in the application process. So what we did was we stuck with the original 40,000 in salary. So this is just the salary and benefits being paid out of those funds.
And would you be requesting the 5% or whatever percent the county would for this position, or would you just leave it at the 40,000?
So what we did, this is a non-mandated, so it wouldn't be a probation officer. With this being the first year, we advertise at 40,000. So if they, moving forward, we would request that they would receive the mandated raises. This year, we didn't allocate for that, so, but in the future, that would be our recommendation.
But this comes out of the grant monies, right? The opioid
Right.
exams.
Well, the opioid settlement, yes,
Okay.
yes.
Settlement.
But I mean, I think it's paying the probation officer, right?
It's,
Or-
they are not a probation officer.
No.
They are a non-mandated staff.
Okay. Treatment coordinator.
Yes.
Okay. There's no action there to be taken. Adult probation.
So this budget pays for a probation officer salary. So those increases is what you'll see here for the salary and benefits.
Any questions or comments from the members? Angie, in years past, we haven't taken any action on these funds, have we? I don't recall we have.
I don't think so, no.
Okay, if there's no questions or comments, we'll move on to the alcohol and drug.
So this budget, you won't see any changes on either. Everything remains the same from previous year.
Is there any questions or comments regarding the alcohol and drug fund? Looks like categories 2, 3, and 4 at the same requested levels. If there's no questions or comments, I entertain a motion.
Mr. President, make a motion to accept categories 2, 3, and 4 as presented.
Second.
I have a motion from Mr. Lemming, a second from Mr. Connor to approve within the alcohol and drug fund categories 2, 3, and 4 as presented. Any other questions or comments from the members? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. The Veterans Treatment Court.
So you will not have any changes to this budget either. We are keeping those line items the same as the year before.
Is there any questions or comments from the members regarding the Veterans Treatment Court? Category 3,
It's 2 and 3, isn't it?
2, and 3, yeah. There are none. I'd entertain a motion.
Mr. President, I make a motion to accept categories 2 and 3 as presented.
Is there a second?
Second.
I have a motion from Mr. Lemming, a second from Mr. Connor to approve within the Veterans Treatment Court Fund categories 2 and 3 as presented. Any other questions from the members? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. I would know all those fund balances support the requested budgets. Just a side note, as far as, if you look at the bottom of your sheet, it's showing the fund balance for each fund. So thank you, Angie. I believe, is that all?
You,
Court.
Drug court.
so there are no changes to this budget this year either.
Any questions or comments regarding the drug court fund? No changes? If there are none, I entertain a motion.
Mr. President, I make a motion to accept categories 2 and 3 as presented for Drug Court 9108.
Second.
I have a motion from Mr. Lemming, a second from Mr. Connor to approve The drug court fund categories 2 and 3 as presented. Any other questions or comments from the members? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Thank
I
you.
think that is. Thank you. Thank you. Have a good evening. Do we need a break or do we need to continue on? The next department before us this evening will be the prosecutor.
I'd like to thank all those people for being here on time. Cruising.
Appreciate this opportunity. We have 2 or 3 that we need to address. I would take your pleasure, whichever one you'd like to discuss first.
Yeah, go, start with the prosecutor fund and you can talk about, the personnel piece first.
Sure.
Your request there.
And if it would be all right with you, I would prefer to talk about the whole,
That's
not
fine.
just the personnel first, but the whole of my request is, as you look through my request, non-personnel first, you will see that I'm actually asking for a decrease in budget. I believe that there are items that we do not need. I came before you earlier this year and said it's irresponsible for me to spend money that I have if I don't need it. And so I direct your attention to a few items in the prosecutor's budget in particular. We have, with respect to personal services, I'm asking for actually a 15% decrease in the funding there, only asking for a total of $5,795, whereas last year we had allocated nearly $7,000. So I'm making a good faith effort to be a good steward with what you've given us as an office. And also, as you look at other services and charges, I'm again asking or proposing a 15% decrease in the budget of items there, as I'm requesting only $35,211, whereas last year we had $40,511 allocated. I say that, I bring that to your attention for you to be aware that I am not just looking to spend the citizens of Grant County's money. That being said, I'll get to the elephant in the room, which is the personnel. I'm asking for, in the prosecutor's office, overall, about a 5% pay increase. And part of that is based upon the generosity of the council last year for this year. And I echo what others have said with respect to the staff and appreciating those pay raises. I am asking for a 5% increase, but I'm not asking for it to be applied equally. And the reason for that is because my office, and not just my office, but prosecutors' offices around the state are facing a crisis. When I graduated law school, there were a handful of deputy prosecutor jobs available in the state of Indiana. If I wanted to become a deputy prosecutor, I would have to have moved. There were none available around here. Now I have 2 positions that have been open for over 2 years. And even with your generously allowing me to reallocate some funds to that, those jobs still remain open. And it is an issue that my office is, not just my office that's dealing with this, but it's prosecutors' offices everywhere. So you can see, and you can do the math, that I am asking for some significant increases with respect to my deputy prosecutors. I would note, last time I was here, it was pointed out that the 2 lowest deputy prosecutors I had pay-wise were women. And if you notice here, the 2 greatest increases in salaries that I'm requesting for next year are for those same women. I'm asking for what would be equivalent to approximately a 16% increase for both of them. I understand that's an awful lot. For the others, I'm asking for about a 14% increase in the deputy prosecutors. This puts us on an even playing field with all the most other prosecuting. We're still at the low end. I can tell you that I've talked to other prosecutors down Hendricks County. He said that they had a prosecutor job open for $85,000 and it took them 8 months to fill for $85,000. That's the highest that I'm requesting. This salary B is approximately $85,000. Most prosecutors' offices are starting off where we top out. I know that this is painful. I know that we don't want to frivolously spend money. I don't. And I hope my good faith efforts in cutting where we can demonstrate that to you. But we are functioning on, at 66% capacity. And if you're a businessman, you can't thrive on 66% capacity when you're expected to do 100% of the work. And so I would ask you to keep that in mind when you consider the personnel decisions and the pay. With respect to the non-deputy prosecutor personnel and even the part-time or the other deputy prosecutors, I'm not asking for much, 1 or 2%. But I would ask that you consider strongly the needs of this community to have good, solid prosecutors. It's not enough just to have a warm body in the court. I think as you look at jail population, as you consider that, we certainly don't bear all that responsibility, but our being understaffed has certainly led to that issue. And it's something I own. It is part of our fault. But the fact of the matter is, we are not playing with full deck. We don't have all the pieces we need. And if we could get fully staffed at rates that would not only attract good attorneys, but keep good attorneys, I believe that my portion of the issue causing jail overcrowding could be addressed. So that's what I have to say about it. The prosecutor's general budget, I would take any questions if you would like.
Is there any questions or comments from the members?
I would like to comment. I want to extrapolate, to use Judge McVicker's words, on Scott's comment. Literally speaking, good, competent, well-paid prosecutors and a full staff of the prosecutor's office has a direct correlation on the number of inmates we have in the jail. You got to get people in, prosecuted, and either set free by you lose, or you've got to get them convicted and they go to the Department of Corrections. So we can't have it both ways. I mean, this is in addition to the concern about crime in the community. We're talking about potentially a federal judge telling us what we have to do with the jail instead of being able to make our own decisions. And I do want to comment, this is not your issue, Scott, but I think some of the comments made in the paper by Sheriff's Department personnel are lightning rods for that kind of a suit happening. I think they're very ill-advised. I think folks need to be very careful about getting in the paper and commenting some of the ways it's been commented about the conditions. They are self-evident. We don't need our own employees basically getting in the media and saying, please, some inmate sue us, ACLU, ICLU, sue us. So that a federal judge starts telling us that we have to spend money we don't have. So back to Scott, I am supportive of his efforts to pay better to get prosecutors in. I think he's doing the right thing by decreasing other parts of his budget so that he can do that. I think we should give him that flexibility. And I can tell you, our firm has a devil of a time getting new attorneys to come to our office. So I know what the pay ranges are, and it's hard enough to get people to come to Marion, Indiana for non-pay reasons, but the pay reasons make it just almost impossible. So I think we need to really seriously consider that, because this touches on so many important issues in the community. So when it comes time to consider the adjustment of salary, for his staff, I think we need to seriously consider it. And I'm not employed there. I've got no self-interest other than being a citizen of Grant County who doesn't want to see those things happen to the jail and us get sued and criminals go free because they can't get prosecuted.
I appreciate that. One thing I would reiterate this, and I said this is not just a Grant County Prosecutor's Office problem. This is not just a prosecutor's office problem either. I think the lack of available attorneys is something that we're facing statewide, and it's not of our own making. We had 2 law schools that have closed in Indiana in the past 3 or 4 years, which took away, if we had 5 law schools at one time, now we're down to 3. That's 40% of our law students graduating are gone. So, simple supply and demand, when the supply decreases by 40%, the cost is going to increase, usually by about the same amount.
When I graduated in the late 80s, we were all complaining about the law schools pumping out too many lawyers
Yeah,
and us out trying to get jobs. Well, it's not that way anymore.
no, it is not. And
It's like, God help us, we need to find attorneys.
yeah, and I lament that it costs the taxpayers more money to have to hire prosecutors and public defenders and all other kinds of attorneys. If we could find a way for the state to pay for it, I would get on board. If the state would agree to take over paying prosecutors, I would jump on that immediately. Unfortunately, that's not the way it is. I have to come here and ask you, and it puts a burden on our taxpayers locally. One which I feel bad about, but one which is necessary. So thank you.
Has that been kicked around, Scott, about prosecuting attorneys becoming state employees?
It has been, that's one thing that we've been talking about as Prosecuting Attorneys Council is trying to get it to where the state would take over the payment of.
Wouldn't that standardize salaries because they being state employees would be pretty much the same salary?
It certainly would. Of course, you take the good with the bad. Anytime you move it up the chain, then they will standardize how many people you can have in your office. But right now, I don't think they would tell us we would only have 4 deputy prosecutors in our office. So I think that would be beneficial. That's something I am fighting for. And I know it basically just shifts the burden. Nonetheless, it would alleviate some issues having to ask our tax base to cover these costs and spread it out over the state. So, any other questions?
Yeah, if I could ask, how would we attract that individual? If Hendricks County cannot hire somebody at $85,000, how's Grant County going to hire somebody?
That is a good question. I mean, that's the $1 million question. I think, if we were over $100,000 for deputy prosecutors, I think you might start attracting deputy prosecutors. Now, we have several. Jamie Moore, as a matter of fact, has been with our office for 10 years. And he works diligently. He could easily travel down to Madison County and make probably close to 6 figures as a deputy prosecutor. They have 4 deputy prosecutors over $100,000 in Madison County, and he certainly has the skill, the ability, and the experience to do that. He sticks around here because he loves this community, and I appreciate that about Jamie Moore greatly. We have to get a love for the community, and this is something that goes beyond me. This is not a simple fix. This is not if we just tighten this screw, everything's going to work. This is just one component of it. The salary is one component. I think that we have a lot to offer here. I think our office gets along. We enjoy working together. There's great camaraderie, great mentoring that goes on in our office, and that is a selling point. The cost of living in Grant County is incredible. We just need to attract them here. And I'm trying. I have ads out all over the state at the law schools. And unfortunately, though, what we do need is experience as well. So I would take just about any attorney who's interested and who is competent at this point in time. But the fact of the matter is, like it or not, the prosecutor's office is probably one of the most important offices in the county, because we deal with crimes. And so, it is important to get the right people there. And I don't, Mike, to answer your question, that was a long answer for a short, I don't know. It's something that we all have to work on, and I'm, me included.
Yeah, I agree.
The last time you were here, we talked about, as you pointed out, just the eye thing, about charts, about who was paid, what sex they were, whatever. You said you were doing this based on job duties.
Yeah.
Is that still the same?
It is still the same.
So these pay raises and these requested amounts will coincide whichever sex takes the job with their job duties.
Yes, but I wanted to point out for you in particular that as you look at this,
It was just something I looked at that I was shocked that it was coming across that way.
and it is, if you look at my budget proposals, it is job function. And I would, and I'm looking forward to moving either Happy or Hannah up to a felony, like a high felony position when the experience comes. They're still pretty green in the prosecution field. And I want them to get that experience so that they can handle those things. So it is position driven, but nonetheless, I am working hard to get them paid as well.
Scott, can you remind me, what is the approximate percentage of inmates in the Grant County Jail who are there not serving sentences but awaiting trial?
I've heard different numbers. I've heard approximately 70%. I don't know. I would defer to community corrections or the jail for that number. I believe it's roughly 70%.
Anybody else in the room know what that figure
Is that
is?
correct?
If the data that we're looking at is accurate, which, you know, it's around 70%. So we don't control this categorization of the jail that categorizes that. And so I've seen some errors in terms of that, but probably within a few percentages of 70%.
Think about what that means, folks. Better than 2 out of 3, if my math is correct, of people in beds in our jail that's causing the overcrowding have not been convicted but are awaiting trial. That's why we, as painful as it is, we gotta support the courts, we gotta support prosecutor's office. That's the only way you're gonna get people moved out of there, short of just giving up, setting them free and hoping and praying they aren't bad people that go out and do bad things.
The prosecutor's office is one piece of that. Again, we are a part of that responsibility at 70%. We're not fully responsible for it, that number being so high, but we do bear a certain level of responsibility for that. And we own what we do.
What are some of the other factors?
I think some of the other factors are public defender issues. They are, you know, I see my colleague here, they are, have a lot of, they're very, very busy. They have a lot, they're a huge caseload, which that slows them down. And I'll let Mr. Elliott speak to those issues. Heaven knows I don't like to make his arguments for him in court. I certainly don't want to do it here either. That's one of the issues. The other issue is there was a big, you hate to keep blaming COVID, right? Because we're about 2 years, a year and a half out. But when you delay trials for a year and a half or 2 years, those things back up. And so we are still trying to catch up from some of those. And the judges have been pressuring us to take things to trial and start to get things moving. And I think we are attempting to do that. So it is a crime. I mean, the drug epidemic in Marion is horrible. And, you know, we get people who they bond out or they're released on their own cognizance at a free trial release program, which is a good program. I'm not knocking that, but they go out and they offend again. And so after 3 or 4 times of going out and getting caught with drugs, we have no choice but to say, listen, if you can't be law abiding, we're going to just have to keep you in jail until we figure this out, until we can get you the help you need. Those kind of issues are a big problem as well. It's just the people who keep reoffending waiting for their trial to happen. So those, I think, are some of the main issues. The prosecutor's office is part of that. But, you know, it has to be attacked from several different angles, and I'm willing to attack it from ours, but it's going to be a team effort.
Thank you.
I think that's a great leadership role that you just spoken on, and I appreciate everybody for being here on time. Thank you all very much. I think there's some interesting points to all that we have that conversation amongst us once in a while, like what's working and what isn't, and what do we do to correct what's not working. So I like the open dialogue. I'd love to hear more about that at some point in the future, obviously.
It gets kind of old, always having to tell constituents, you know, we don't pass laws, we open and close the purse strings. I say that all the time. Here's an example where, yeah, we're opening and closing the purse string, but we have a chance to make a difference on substance. It's not just dollars and cents. We're talking about, you know, actual crime and actual overcrowding in the jail. We can make a difference, and I think we have to. Otherwise, it's going to get worse and worse and be irreparable eventually.
Thank you. Angie, do you have everything you need as far as the salary requests?
Yeah, Scott and I were.
Okay.
The motion.
Is there any,
The motion to approve the non-salary portions of prosecutor's budget as presented.
Second.
I have a motion from Mr. Connor, a second from Mr. Lemming to approve within the prosecutors fund categories 2, 3, and 4 as presented. Any other questions or comments from the members? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
What would you like to hear about?
The victims fund.
The victims, or the stoplight, or the victim's assistant.
Yes, the victim's assistant.
290. I am not asking for any salary increases on that one. I'm asking it to remain the same at this point. Actually, that's not true. I'm asking for, I apologize. I am asking for a $2,000 increase on the victims advocate coordinator's salary, which would be about a 2% increase in her pay. I'm not asking for any increase on the child support assistant coordinator in that line item. So there's probably nothing else. You're obviously not going to take action on that tonight. I just wanted to draw your attention to that. And those numbers are reflected in the overall 5% that I asked for my office. And the same would go for my deferral salary compensation. I'm asking for nominal raises for both Amber Earhart and Justin Fall in those categories. $1,000 for Amber and about $1,500 for Justin.
Is there any questions or comments regarding the victims assistant fund categories 2 and 3? If there are none, I entertain a motion.
Mr. President, I make a motion to approve categories 2 and 3 as presented in the victims category 290.
Second. I have a motion from Mr. Lemming, a second from Mr. Poling to approve within the victims assistant fund categories 2 and 3 as requested. Any other questions or comments from the members? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. The Spotlight on Violence Fund.
Again, I believe those numbers are identical to last year. I'm not asking for any increases on those.
Any-
Non-salary portions, and the salary portion is contained in what I've already addressed with the council.
Any questions or comments from the members? If there are none, I'd entertain a motion.
Mr. President, I make a motion to approve category 3 as presented in Spotlight 9600.
Second.
I have a motion from Mr. Lemming, a second from Mr. Connor to approve within the Spotlight on Violence Fund category 3 as presented. Any other questions or comments from the members? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. The Deferred Prosecution Fund.
Again, there's no increases being sought in that. So Everything I've requested other than salary would remain the same in that one.
This is all salaries, correct?
Yes, so there is,
Yeah.
yeah, I thank you. I did not think there was anything else. So
Yeah.
that's, I don't think you would be taking any action on that.
There is a negative balance in that fund.
Yes.
Is it just, the way the money flows in or?
Well, I believe Ms. Jarvis can respond to that as well, but we have money coming in from the diversion program. And generally, we transfer some of that over as from the
Last year,
state.
we transferred quite a bit of it over to cover the negative balance in this fund. I don't know if we're gonna be able to.
Yeah, I would,
Something we're gonna have to.
one thing I would ask is, we have, and again, I'm not throwing anybody under the bus or anything. We have taken over the diversion program, the felony diversion program in our office. It had been run through a different portion of the government. And we are pushing that as an option for people to deal with their cases. And I believe, I just got the numbers tonight. I haven't had a chance to look at it. But I believe that those numbers are increasing. So we would have, my hope is by the end of the year, we will have enough to cover the negative balance, enough in the diversion program to cover the deferral program. Yeah, I would ask the council's indulgence to permit us to try to work that out for one more year before you axe that program.
Is there any questions or comments from the members? We'll move on to the pretrial diversion. Is there any questions or comments there? It's all salaries zeroed out. We can move on to the prosecutor, the 4D fund.
Yes. So one thing I will tell you about the 4D fund, I'll again begin with the non-salary issues. We are not asking for any increases. We are not asking for any decreases. Part of the reason for that is all of this is reimbursed. Those expenses would be reimbursed. So there's really, it's a wash to you. That doesn't mean that we go out and spend frivolously. If you look at our expenditures over the years, you can see that we are trying to keep our expenditures down. With respect to personnel, I am asking that one position be cut from the number of case managers. The reason for that, the reason for that is the gals that we have working there are doing a phenomenal job. They are probably top notch when it comes to the 4D offices. They are at the highest level in the metrics around the state. Green is the highest level, and we are green in, I believe, every category or almost every category, which is amazing.
You 100% right. Thank you, Scott.
I am asking for a 6% decrease in the funding for salaries. It's a 6.38% decrease in salary funding. However, that does not mean I'm not asking for raises for these gals. I'm asking to make them, and you can see what I'm asking here. The first is for Mrs. Alston, Darcy, who is a phenomenal office manager, who if I did not have her, I don't know what I would do with the 4D office. She makes it, she runs that office like a well-oiled machine. I'm asking to raise her up to the same level as the office manager in the prosecutor's office. So it would be about a 5% increase there. I am asking that the remaining case managers get a pay increase up to, so they would all be making the same amount of money. So it would be different for different people, but I'm asking their salaries to be raised to $39,000, which I know that's a lot for a big raise. What I would tell you is that is still lower than the median salary for a case manager in 4D office in Indiana. Johnson County, as a matter of fact, has a job opening right now for a case manager, exactly what these three ladies do, Lynn Allen, Morgan Kapinski, and Connie Studebaker, at $44,000 starting off. So $5,000 less is what I'm asking them to make for somebody else in another county to make $44,000. I think it's appropriate given how hard they have worked and the diligence that they have put into these cases to make us such an efficient county when it comes to 4D. And then I'm asking for a pay increase for the secretary to bring her up to the same level as the level of pay in the prosecutor's office. All that being said, I would ask you to consider adopting this. One, because we are going to eliminate a position, which is a benefits package, because we don't need it. And it would be irresponsible for me to hire a person to do that job if we don't need it. And two, because it is a cut in the budget, but it does reflect what these gals have been doing without that pay for this past year at least. So I would ask you to consider that as well. And I would take any questions you have.
Are there any questions or comments from the members? If there are none, I'd entertain a motion.
Mr. President, make a motion in the prosecutor's 4D fund to approve categories 2, 3, and 4 as presented.
Second,
Second.
I have a motion from Mr. Lemming, a second from Mr. Scott to approve within the prosecutor 4D fund categories 2, 3, and 4 as presented. Any other questions or comments from the members? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
I think that's it, right?
The 4D incentive fund. There's,
I don't think there's any,
okay, yeah, it's all zeros.
yes.
I think that's it.
All right.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good evening. The next budget before us this evening will be the public defender. Good evening.
Good evening. For those that may not know me, I'm Bruce Elliott. I'm the managing public defender here in Grant County. I've been doing that position since 2014. I've been a public defender in Grant County for well over 30 years. Just to kind of give a broad overview about our public defender's office. There are 11 trial public defenders. I would be the 12th. Each of us has a trial calendar. 4 of our public defenders are what we call super EDs. They receive cases that are conflict situations. For instance, if there's multiple defendants, we make sure we have different attorneys representing each of the defendants. They also are designated to do our appeals and murders. Speaking of murders, my office is currently handling 13 open murder files. We've had years, going back a ways, that we didn't have any of those. 13 is a lot for Mr. Hunt and his office to handle. It's a sizable task for the public defender's office. We're doing that. Now, we are under, since 2004, I believe, the reimbursement program the state of Indiana offers. Under that program, if we follow the rules, Grant County can receive a 40% reimbursement on everything they spend that goes to public defender cases with the exception of, for instance, misdemeanors. We don't receive any reimbursement for misdemeanors. We get reimbursement for salaries. We get reimbursement for depositions, transcriptions, basically everything. As long as we follow the rules. Rule number 1 is they require the public defenders to stay in case compliance. And you've all heard me come here talking about case compliance before. We have never, since 2004, never not received a full reimbursement because we're out of case compliance. Now, I'm not saying that we've always been in case compliance. We have received our full 40% reimbursement. The reimbursement under this program has totaled millions of dollars for Grant County. That's not money that goes pouring back into the public defender fund or the supplemental fund. That goes right to the general fund. I've never heard yet of a quarter where when that check comes in, that Grant County hadn't put it in the general fund. It happens every time. Now, the other main component of that is pay parity. What do I mean by that? Pay parity is we are supposed to be on par with the prosecutor's office. I cannot give you an opinion that I believe this body has followed that rule. I would say just the other way, that we are not in pay parity. We have not been in pay parity for a number of years. I recall a few years back, Jim McCourt sitting right here, and I was asking for pay parity as to be even with the prosecutor's office. And he said to me, Bruce, you're asking for like a 40% increase. And the prosecutor and chief deputy prosecutor are paid by the state. That's true. The other part of that is, of course, if my salary had been increased over the years, it wouldn't be a 40% increase. It would have been an increase just like the prosecutors. Also, that wasn't what the agreement was with Grant County. The agreement was Grant County would pay that to be in the reimbursement program, not the state of Indiana. Okay. Now, so you'll see in my request for 2024, I'm asking to be paid on par with the prosecutor and the trial judges. Now, I know over the years, this body was represented by Phil Stevenson. Phil's an awfully nice man and did a good job for Grant County. He would contact Bernice Corley with the Public Defender Council, not Derek Mason, who I had directed him to contact, who is part of the Public Defender Commission. And Bernice would tell Phil, well, you guys are in substantial compliance. That's not what the rule is. And so Phil would report back to you, and we would not get the pay increases to be in pay parity. I have provided to each of you an email from Derek Mason with the Public Defender Commission, which indicates if a county has a public defender's office, which we do, the managing or chief PD should be paid in pay parity with the prosecutor and the judges. And I've submitted those figures to you as well. Also, I have submitted a couple different articles detailing issues not only Mr. Hunt is having about hiring people But the same issues are happening in the public defender's office. I know Mr. Poling was at a recent community corrections meeting. And when it came to my presentation, I said, we're fully staffed at this time. I don't see that continuing. Well, today, my first PD came in and resigned her position. She is taking a new position in Howard County, doing misdemeanor cases only, $56,000, full benefits, insurance and perk. My public defenders last year were paid $37,400 doing major felonies.
How many years this been going on?
Since 24. Wabash County, one of my good friends, Todd Whitehurst, is a public defender in Wabash County. They have public defenders. They are under the reimbursement program. He called me today and told me that they're getting a 40% increase, the trial public defenders. I asked him, I said, Todd, that sounds like you're going to be making about $80,000 a year as a trial public defender. Yeah. Full benefits, perf, insurance. Now, why is that significant? Because, as I've told you in the past, we are going to have a difficult time hiring public defenders with that pay. And we're going to have a difficult time retaining public defenders. One of my public defenders, a very good public defender, wonderful with a client, great in court. She lives in Wabash County. I guarantee you that job will be going to her. One of those PD spots in Wabash County, we're going to be down 2 public defenders. Now, I have talked with the remaining public defenders, and there is an undercurrent, which I tried to express at the community corrections. They're not going to work for this anymore. Not this kind of pay. I mean, there's a threshold. They want to be a public servant. They want to help this county. They can't do it anymore. They're losing money being a public defender. They're having to use their public defender money and put it into their private practices. That's not right. Now, I requested for our salaries for the trial public defenders an increase from the $34,700 to $70,000. I came up with that figure looking at last year's prosecutor's budget. Their deputy prosecutors were earning a little over $69,000 if you averaged it out. I knew they'd be coming today and making a request for additional monies. But I felt pretty good at the $70,000 number, and we'll live by that. Now, does that guarantee I'm going to have public defenders? No, it doesn't. But I think it certainly makes it more probable that I will have public defenders. Now, another part of the reimbursement program is not only pay parity for the attorneys, but pay parity for the other staff members. And I have 2, and that would be John Lawson, my investigator. I'm sure you're all familiar with John. And then Lisa Morris, who is actually a certified paralegal who does she does everything. She's a jack of all trades. She is a secretary, she's an office manager, and she does paralegal work. I'm asking that John Lawson be paid on par with what the chief investigator in the prosecutor's office made last year. I'm asking that Lisa Morris be paid on par with the office manager in the prosecutor's office. Now, I heard tonight that there's actually two office managers, one in 4D and one in the prosecutor's office. We're asking that they have like salaries. I get through my emails from Justin Satoff advertising jobs here in Grant County. And two of them caught my eye recently. One was for 911 dispatcher. That job was being listed at over $39,000. That again is quite a bit more than what my public defenders are making. Then there was one from community corrections, a case manager position, $40,000. Associate's degree was required. My PDs have 4 years of college, 3 years of law school. Is that fair? And why has it been this way? Why are the PDs being underpaid? I think it's because we're public defenders. I mean, let's get down to it. Let's be honest. Nobody cares about the public defenders. We care about the jail numbers.
Are there any questions or comments from the members regarding the public defender's request as far as salaries go?
I would basically speak up and say ditto to what I said about the prosecutor's office. You have to remember, prosecutors and the public defenders, it's yin and yang. It's part of the system. That's why it needs to be equal. And I hear people in the community literally say ignorant things like, well, they're criminals. The jail is not supposed to be a nice place. Things like that, forgetting the sacred concept of you're innocent until proven guilty. And this is coming from an ultra right-wing conservative, by the way, so don't lump me in with everyone else in that camp. I think we need to support the public defender's office, just like we support the prosecutor's office and we support the courts, because it helps keep the system going. It helps clear cases. It gets inmates out of the jail. And I think both sides do a good job. I think the guilty get convicted and innocent get acquitted, because the system works when you pay people properly. And I cannot believe, all due respect to support personnel, that there are support personnel in county government that make more than a starting public defender. For that many years of school, which I have been through, I would farm potatoes before I would accept that kind of salary to be an attorney, with the stress. And I was a public defender twice. The second time, it almost literally killed me. I know what they go through. Bruce, I support you, and I really appreciate the job you've done for 10 years and what your people do.
I appreciate your thoughts, and if anybody has any questions or about anything I've talked about today, I'm more than happy to meet with you anytime, anywhere. But I am really concerned that we have taken time and effort to train these talented, experienced PDs, and then they're going to go and leave us. They're going to go to other counties. They're going to get our benefit. And we've got to put a stop to it. When a DCS attorney, the median salary for DCS attorney is $99,000. And that'll show up in the documents I sent to you. When that can happen, how are we going to compete for a public defender position with where we're at? We can't. So again, I encourage any of you, if you have questions or if you'd like me to come back, I'll be here. I feel very strongly about this. Now, I know we have other changes from last year in the budget, and I can address those now if you'd like.
If you would, go ahead.
Okay. Under contractual services, we have a slight increase in that request, and that is, these are our super PDs. They have never received a increase in pay. Now, they may have as a trial PD, but not their super PD pay. I'm asking for those 4 individuals to receive a 6% increase. And also included in that is our mental health attorney. Jerry Drook does that. I'm asking for a 6% increase for him for the mental health work. And that would total the 102,629.
Bruce, can you elaborate briefly what, for lay people who don't know, what is a super public defender?
Again, the super PD, we have 4 do the conflict cases, trial work. They do murder cases, and they also do appellate work.
Do they have to have death sentence eligibility or whatever you call it?
They do not, but they do have to have at least 3 years of trial experience and a certain number of, to do the appellate work, a certain number of hours, 6 hours in.
That's a special qualification yet.
Yeah.
Over even that to do a death penalty case.
Correct,
Correct.
correct.
And you don't have a pay category for that. and that-
No, we don't.
All right, thank you.
And I'm not sure that we actually have an attorney any longer practicing in Grant County that is currently death penalty eligible. I don't know
Joe
that
just retire? I thought he had that.
he is retiring.
Okay.
But you have to go at least every other year to the death penalty seminar. And I'm not sure he did that last year, so.
Angie, in years past, we typically pass the category 3 contractual piece during.
There's been times where we have tabled that.
Again, if I'm running long, I can come back and present to you, okay? Next is contractual CHINS TPR. There are 3 of us that do the CHINS and TPR cases. That'd be Jerry Druck, Tom Lawson, and myself. Tom and, well, it sounds funny, Tom and Jerry receive a yearly contractual amount. We're asking that they receive a 6% raise on what they're currently receiving. I am not asking for a 6% raise for my efforts in CHINS and TPR. And we also took out some extra money that was there for appeals for the CHINS and TPR. We thought that was fair to do. So the super PDs who get paid extra can do the CHINS and TPR appeals. So that's why the number is different from last year's budget.
Any questions or comments from the members? Proceed on.
Thank you. Next up is witness fees. Last year, we were budgeted $7,000. This year, I'm asking for an increase of about $3,000. And the reason I'm asking for that is we have 13 murder trials, and we've had some juvenile cases where individuals have been charged with major felonies, including murder. That requires us oftentimes to hire expert witnesses to come and provide testimony based upon what we have on our plate. I believe an increase of $3,000 would be appropriate. If there are no questions on that, then next category, depositions and transcripts. We're asking for $47,000, which is the same amount as last year. As to postage, we're asking for the same amount of $700. I question the zero that's showing. I'm sure that there's been charges in that regard, but I'm not sure where they're not reflected there.
These are changing the balances, so.
Okay. Could be. I would have thought there would have been some before that time, but perhaps not. Next up, travel and conference. We have a $2,000 budget from last year. We're asking for the same for this year. Again, that's how we pay for our PDs to get the newest and best education and training. And that is also picked up in the next line item, training and education. We asked for $3,000 and we're asking for the same this year. Publications, we're asking for the same amount. We do have a pretty significant public defender library. Most of that stuff can also be found online, but we do supply to each of our public defenders the statute book at our cost. So we're asking for that to remain the same. Repair and maintenance, again, we're asking for the $500 from, as we did last year. Again, I question the zero, but I'm sure we've had some repairs. Hourly investigator and part-time. As you may recall, we are trying to bring the public defender's office into the electronic age, and we're electronically storing the files. We're making significant progress on that. Lisa Morris has been doing that. She's been coming in on hours where she's not scheduled to work and been doing that. We're asking for an increased budget there so we can continue that process.
The hourly investigator and part-time should be moved to the personal services. How do you want to handle that?
It's gonna be your call. Chance's call. I believe it should be part of the personnel.
Mhm. So overtime's involved.
Right. That way she can, that employee can earn.
However, the county believes we ought to do that. That is, I just want to make sure we have that funded so we can continue to do that and reduce the number of file cabinets out in our office. Plus, we have had many requests from former public defender clients from DOC asking for copies of their files, and now we're able, and for the most part, to supply that to them. Malpractice insurance, again, county's been good to allow us to have that. That does give our public defenders some coverage. Knock on wood, we've not had to use that or make a claim to my understanding for many years. And then we're asking for another $1,000 for equipment from last year's request. And again, part of that may have to do with getting thumb drives, that sort of thing, so we can forward on files to former clients.
Are there any questions or comments from members regarding categories 2, 3, and 4. Would you like a motion to move the hourly rate now? Or would that screw up the process we put in personal services?
No, you can do that.
Okay,
Leave it up there at whatever, I mean,
so move the hourly investigator and part-time to personnel services at the $13,000 amount. And then you could, the contractual service and the contractual chance, TPR, could be decided at the special hearing regarding the raises if need be. So I entertain a motion if there's no other comments from the members.
I have one. Mr. Allen, I have a question. Do you still practice out of your actual practice?
I don't have an actual practice.
You
I'm
don't
full-time public defender.
full-time?
Yep.
And you've been doing that since 2014?
Yes, in my current position. Prior to that, I did have a private practice and I was a public defender.
I was thinking I read where you took a case in Indianapolis just a few years ago. So just a question.
No. What case would that be?
It's another place, another time. I just thought that you still were doing it because the rest of these public defenders still have their practices, correct?
That's correct.
So how much percentage do you think they spend public defending versus their practice?
Well, we had a recent meeting, that very question was asked. And I got anywhere from 50 to 70% goes to the public defender classes.
So where scales of justice have turned the other way. We're opposite, we should be spending more time on our own business and we're not now.
You know, it is what it is. We are trying to do a public service for the pauper, the indigent clientele, and we have to represent them zealously. So yes, you get one trial a month and you're putting way more time in than 50% to the PD case or PD cases.
And you use the term pay parity several times. So I was just kind of looking that up to see, you know, is it equal or is it off a little bit? Are you saying it's equal?
Well, again, the deputy prosecutor's salary was 69,000 last year. My trial public defenders were receiving 37,400. That's nowhere near equal.
Just trying to clear up a couple of things in my own mind.
So as I understand it, the deputy prosecutor is a full-time position. Correct?
They're not all, I mean, they have some that are part-time.
And how much are their part-time people making?
No idea.
I think it's back here. I think I saw one.
I mean, I'm not against what you're asking. I just got to figure out how do you justify my 40% raise that you're asking? And I know, I understand. It's tongue in cheek. I got it. I get it.
And Councilman, the way I justify it is, if it had been paid all along,
Mhm.
I would not be here asking for 40%.
Right. And I get that.
And this body in 2004 agreed to pay it. They agreed to be under those rules. Now, they haven't followed it.
Are you saying you have not received a pay raise?
No, I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that I'm being paid as I'm supposed to be, nor are the other public defenders.
Well, how do they keep their practices open if they're spending 70% of their time public defendant? How do they pay the bill?
It's very difficult. They're taking their PD money and pouring it into their private practice. They're paying their staff with their PD money.
Bruce is correct. I have experience on both public and private type trials. You have one jury trial, it consumes you. And if it doesn't, as a public defender, you know what you get? IAC, ineffective assistance of counsel, which is a grounds for a criminal appeal, and you can get convictions set aside because of public defender if they succumb to temptation and don't put themselves into it and do a competent job, that's what happens, and people's convictions get reversed, and they either go free or they come back for yet another trial or are dying. You got to pay the piper.
So actually, they make more money from the public defender than they do their own private practices.
I'm not saying that. I'm saying the amount of time they're
I
putting
understand
into
what
it.
you're saying, I'm talking dollars.
They're probably making $5 an hour as a public defender.
Okay, and if they're using their public defender money to pay their staff at their offices, right, and they're only making 34,000. They must only have one or two staff members in each office?
Yep.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments from the members?
Thank you.
Hold on a minute. We'll put it
Okay.
up. Is there a motion?
Are we gonna move this right now?
Yeah, or you could move it with the however.
Yeah, or you want to move
Yeah,
that?
move it now.
So one motion for that?
You could, the motion would be to approve categories two.
Hourly and contractual to the personal services.
Do that first is what I'm asking.
Yeah. Did we have a motion on that?
No motion.
So I'd make that motion to move the category hourly investigator to keep us straight so we can pay her overtime at least to get her pay up to the personal services. Be my motion first.
Second.
I have a motion from Mr. Liming, a second from Mr. Connor to, within the public defender budget, move the hourly investigator and part-time to the personal services at the requested amount of 13,000. Any other questions or comments from the members?
So Nathan just commented about moving the contractual services and contractual to personal services as well. So I don't know if that's something that
Doing both.
we had talked, tabling that or moving it up to personal services. I'm not sure which would be better.
Yeah, I think that you'd leave those two in the contractual piece, just like Purdue Extension and some of the other offices. But you could just table those two individual items like we did.
Okay.
So I have a motion, a second to move the hourly investigator to the personal services with the same amount, 13,000. Any other questions or comments from the members? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Now we need a,
Then I'll make a motion that we move, go to approve supplies, category 2, other service and charges, categories 3, capital outlays under equipment in category 4.
Second.
and just so I'm clear, that includes the contractual services and the contractual chins with the 6% increase.
Yeah, we can leave that out for now. I guess I didn't think about that.
A motion in a second.
I have a motion and a second. I'm just making,
I'll second the amendment.
so we have a motion and a second, and we can vote on the amendment to leave those two items out. Okay, this is a vote on the amendment to the motion to leave contractual services and the contractual chins out at this point, and then it would be decided at the special meeting regarding the raises and the final budget process. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion, the amendment carries. Now for the motion. The motion is to approve categories 2, 3, and 4 with noted the amendment to category 3. Any other questions or comments from the members? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. I believe that's all, Bruce.
Thank you.
Thank you. We need a 5-minute recess. We'll be in a 5-minute recess. And the next budget before us this evening will be the community corrections. Last but not least,
Mr. President, could I, real quick,
yes, go ahead.
I meant to ask before, I'm sorry. Chris.
all right, go ahead.
I meant to ask the last during, the PD. Is there a way that your office can provide us with a listing of of how much the public defenders make in 2022 so we could do a comparison?
Yes.
You can,
Of actual.
of actual,
Do you mean like the?
everything, the combination, everything they make. Thanks, I'm sorry, Chris. I
That's-
meant to ask that before.
That's all right.
We got,
I notice I have the effect of clearing out the room.
You didn't get much support.
Yeah.
Why didn't you come first? Right?
I've been here since 6 and it's been.
I think it says something.
Could have jumped up here and they'd all left.
No,
Hey, they'd all left. We could have left early.
no. Well, I'll tell you what, I'm Chris Cunningham, if you don't know, I'm the director for community corrections. Under court services, so if you think of 2-arm, get the left arm, right arm, pick whichever one you want. Probation's on one side and community corrections is on the other, under court services. So probably be the easiest budget that you guys have to look at tonight. All the items on the budget are paid by grant or user fees. All of our salaries and benefits are pretty much grant funded, and the rest of the budget items that we have are all from our user fee accounts. So there's a couple of, you'll see some changes in some of the grants that we go through. And particularly in the 100 series, that's because of the Department of Corrections, where we receive our funding from, has asked us to reorganize some of our positions that we had within the grant to move them to different areas. So you're going to see a growth in the community corrections budget, but you're also going to see a reduction in what we call CRRP, or Court Recidivism Reduction Program. That's our reentry court and our jail screenings positions that we have. So those positions are the only ones that are left. There's also a change, and that we've been working with Angie on is when we had our audit a couple months ago, we had a 9103 account, which is project income, user fees, and an 1122 account, which is user fees. They asked us to combine both of those based upon State Board of Accounts recommendation that those be under one user fee account. So we'll be doing a transfer here at the end of the year to take everything, close out 9103, and then 1122 will be the only account that will have user fees that are in. So with that, however you want to take the budgets, whether you want to take them in total, do whatever you want to do.
We can just start with the community corrections budget.
Okay. 9101.
Yes.
Okay.
Anything you want to highlight is in the salary piece?
Just letting you know that there's an increase in that because of the additional positions that were moved from CRRP from the DOC's direction. Our officers are paid on the same schedule as probation officers because they're all certified probation officers. But again, these are all paid through our grant funds and then supplemented with our user fees as they're necessary. So any other questions, I'll answer them. Quit yawning. That's contagious. You know that.
Sorry, excuse me.
See,
Any
you got me doing it.
Any questions or comments regarding the community corrections? Fund 9101. Be categories 2 and 3. If there are no questions, I'd entertain a motion.
Mr. President, regarding Community Corrections Fund 9101, move to approve categories 2 and 3 as presented.
Second.
I have a motion from Mr. Scott, a second from Mr. Lemming to approve within 9101 Community Corrections Fund categories 2 and 3 as presented. Any other questions or comments from the members? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. We'll move on to the 1122 home detention.
Okay. I moved here. I put them in order by 9, so 22. That's the user fee account. There we go. You want the income account for that, is that correct? That is, again, the project income for 1122 that goes to support the home detention budget, and then also salaries that support the rest of community corrections and court recidivism reduction. Answer any questions that you might have.
The part-time rates were increased, correct? Is that all?
Yes.
The
we,
the dollar amount stayed the same, but the rate increased.
Yes, I think that was our request.
Okay.
Sarah talked to you about the increase for that, right?
18.
Yeah.
Is there any questions or comments regarding 1122 home detention categories 2, 3, 4?
And this is correct, that the group insurance is reduced and perf is increased? Should that be correct?
Well, yes, because part of it is paid from grant funds and part of it is coming out of project income.
Because it had never been that way before. So we're changing it.
This is the way it was submitted.
Yeah, we had to because of the way we move the money
Moving around.
Yeah. I know, God rest his soul, Mike Lorback, I think, a shell game at one time. He's like, hey, don't call it a shell game. But I have to move it to make sure that they all come out in balance with user fees. So that's why.
But that's correct.
Yeah, that is correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would assume we need to verify them. Okay. Any other questions or comments? If there are none, I'd entertain a motion.
Mr. President, regarding home detention fund 1122, move to approve categories 2, 3, and 4 as presented.
Second.
I have a motion from Mr. Scott, a second from Mr. Lemming to approve the 1122 home detention categories 2, 3, and 4 as presented. Any other questions or comments from the members? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. The next fund would be the 9130 CRRP.
Right, that's the one that I talked about earlier.
Correct.
No changes.
Has a negative balance.
Yes, though we, at the end of the year, what we do is we try and make sure that we end on a zero balance. So at the end of the year, on that account, we'll move stuff in. We also will have more money that's coming in. We get our reimbursement monthly from the Department of Corrections. They used to pay us in advance. So we used to get a month in advance, so we're always a month in arrears. So whatever we don't finish up at the end of the year and we do a transfer money from our user fee account in to end on a zero balance. It's a good question.
Any other questions or comments from the members? If there are none, I'd entertain a motion.
Mr. President, I make a motion to approve categories 2 and 3 as presented in the CRRP 1006 fund.
Is there a second?
Second.
I have a motion from Mr. Lemming, a second from Mr. Scott to approve 9130 Fund CRRP categories 2 and 3 as presented. Any other questions or comments from the members? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. The next fund before us, 9132 jail treatment.
Yeah, this is our jail treatment account as it states, and this covers MRT that we deliver in the jail for treatment and also seeking safety. I also might point out that as clients who are sentenced to complete this, that we aid them in filing for a time credit from the court for them completing it. So consequently, they're able to get out of the jail early and get substance abuse or trauma treatment that they need while they're in there. I would let you know, we did receive a cut from the Department of Corrections. We had carryover in that account. And what what that basically means is during that time, we were dealing with COVID and other issues that were happening, and they had to make some cuts. So when we complete our grant, we list the programs that we want the cuts to happen to the least. And that was the lowest one that we had at the time. I talked to the sheriff and Captain Camry the other day, and we'll still be able to deliver the maximum amount of services that we had. Of course, we're inhibited by jail overcrowding in the space that we have, so we can only offer so many groups. So our hope at some point we'll be able to expand, what we're doing with the clients that we have in there. A priority for those programs too is also those that are sentenced. And then we do offer that for those that are pretrial as well, if we have space available. Entertain any other questions you have. And this is all, there's no 100 series for this. This is all contractual.
Any questions from the members? If there are none, I'd entertain a motion.
Mr. President, I make a motion under categories 2, 3, and 4 as presented.
Second.
Did you see it 4,
Is there equipment?
2, and 3?
There's no forwards.
2 and 3, okay.
All right, sorry.
Motion from Mr. Fleming, a second from Mr. Poling to approve within the jail treatment fund, 9132, categories 2 and 3 as requested. Any other questions, comments from the members?
Probably got an old one, mine.
Mine doesn't have 4.
Oh, okay. I thought you were saying one had 4 in it.
No, his has 4, but
And
mine doesn't.
On 90.
Yep, this does
Yeah.
have 4.
So there you go. See? You guys thought I was falling asleep? I'm the only.
I just told him, I said, reentry has 2, 3, 4. You can make the same motion.
Yeah, I thought you were-
And then he showed me that he has a 4.
It says 2,500 on my page.
Yeah, that's what we put
You
in.
would have changed it if you'd have been
Alright.
here.
Joke's on me, Angie. Gosh.
I have a motion and a second. Any other questions or comments? Mr. Lemming? All those in favor signify by saying aye. All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. We'll move on to the 9180 reentry court.
Yeah, these are fees that are paid into the reentry court fund. Direction of Judge Todd. We use these fees to help supplement things of training or equipment, things that we might need within our reentry court. And so entertain any questions you might have about it. We did rearrange one of the trainings that we have that is really important to us is the National Association of Drug Court Professionals. It's probably nationally known as one of the best training spots that we have, but it is expensive to go to and expensive to attend. The good thing about it is we get all the cutting edge information that we need, either on grants, treatment processes, and everything else. So this helps supplement other funds that we have in training to be able to get that done.
Is there any questions or comments regarding 9180, the reentry court fund? If there are none, I'd entertain a motion.
Go ahead, Mr.
I'd make a motion to accept categories 2, 3, and 4 in the reentry court.
Second.
I have a motion from Mr. Fleming, a second from Mr. Scott to accept the fund 9180, the reentry court categories 4, 3, and 2 as requested. Any other questions or comments from the members? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Chris, at least the prosecutor stuck for him for you.
Yeah. You probably got a page question for me.
I think he needs a loan.
Yeah, is that probably? Now, I don't know who's doing has the committee for this, but the easiest budget presented, I'm expecting to be at least like in the 1, 2, 3.
You get the award. You get the award. You got
Yeah.
first place right now.
Okay, good to know.
What is the award?
Attaboy. Congratulations.
Attaboy.
Thanks.
Thank you, Chris. Any questions or comments from the members? Our next meeting will be tomorrow, Thursday, August the 24th at 6. And we'll be in recess until then.
Like, you asking him to do that at all, or are you just gonna go on your own, or?